Okay, hi. Hi everyone. Hi, Assalamualaikum. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. My name is Elina. We are from group 2. So our group will be presenting about NGOs and global issues. Okay. First, let's go to introduction. So what is NGO? NGO is an acronym. Is a short form for non-governmental organization, which refers to any organization that is established, created without any influence by state government or business. They are created to serve for the social good and welfare of the society with no goals in commercial. No goals in commercial means that their purpose is not to make money, to not make profit out of it, but to only serve to for the goods of the people, to protect the it could be social economic or it could be political interests of their organization. And the origin, the term non-governmental organization, NGO, dates back when the international organization UN was established. It comes from back then during the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, where back then during the Industrial Revolution we know that people who are involved in the IR, they were often given like mistreatments and problems like lower class, not given equal pay, there were child labor, there were women suffrage. So from all this situation, they created labor unions, which serve to protect the economic interests so that they are given equal pay, they are given social justice and better working conditions for the people that is involved during the Industrial Revolution. There are four generations of NGOs. The first generation of NGOs is those that is gives direct service to those that experience shortage to food, healthcare, and shelter, uh, especially in complex emergency situations such as war, natural disasters, and like the current what we are facing right now, this pandemic, the COVID-19, in the spread of diseases. The second generation of NGO are by community development, which focus in mission in building a sustainable community, improving the community needs. It is similar to first generation. Second generation is similar to the first generation. It's just that what differs it is that the second generation um, it focus more on the local community. Like for the first generation, it focused more on the international community, but second generation, it focused on the local people of the state. Okay, then the third generation is focused on influencing through institutional policies by advocating their ideas on behalf of the vulnerable in the society. Um, they advocacy as in like they focus in trying to like maintain the status quo when it comes to important social assets or public policies that is they feel that is under a threat, like Berse, where the Berse few years back where they focused on they wanted a clean government democracy, the true democracy. Okay, and then technically all organization outside of the government and bases are considered as NGOs. But the usual practice when it comes to this, refers to this NGOs, it exclude religious institution, it exclude professional association, political parties, youth organization, clubs, educational institution, and other stuff. Okay, and NGOs may be formally organized under a non-profit charters, or maybe informal organization or an unorganized group, especially in other countries. And staffing of these NGOs can vary from purely voluntary to completely paid professionals, or any combination between those extremes. For example, in what's it called, Human Rights Watch, mostly that is involved. I mean, working under Human Rights Watch, they are mostly lawyers, journalists, experts who would address the issue to government authorities. So they are mostly people from various backgrounds that is involved in this. How do I say this? Involved in advocacy to promote a particular cause. Mainly when we talk about NGOs, usually we will talk about um, NGOs that gives humanitarian assistance. But I think in these days we are often also heard NGOs that uh, contributes in giving focus on giving advocacy to promote certain causes, like focus in human rights, in environmental movement and social justice. So like each NGO, they have their own mission or purpose. They don't just focus in giving humanitarian assistance. They also focus in advocacy, trying to give governance reform, like Bersih in Malaysia, focus in anti-corruption, focus in trying to give equal right economic opportunity, focus on the injustice, inequitable treatment, like Amnesty International. They focus in like um, giving justice to those that are detained without fair trial, civil engagement to fill gaps when government and business are not adequately engaging with citizens. So they don't just slowly focus on trying to give humanitarian assistance. They also focus on giving focus on advocacy. And one of the most, like I said just now, the most noticeable one is giving assistance during emergency situations. WHO, during its conference in 2004, it also said how NGO plays a huge contribution when it comes to giving humanitarian assistance, as there is a tendency that these NGOs, they have more resources, more capital, and more people to be involved in giving assistance, because all these NGOs mostly they are experienced, they are involved in giving helping, aiding to those that are in complex emergency situations, so they know what to do. Like previously, the recent pandemic, we saw how um, it is something relatively very new. So this is when NGOs, they will come into the picture and give help to the not really experienced government to help in handling the situation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good day everyone. My name is Muhammad Hazi Ahmad bin Samsul. My metric number is 253549, and today I would like to present my part. There is the growth of NGO. NGO, as we know, is the third sector in classical cultural model of developed democracies. So the word NGO actually came after the UN want to differentiate between the IGO and the private organization. So let's start. And in the growth of NGO, I will explaining on the evolution of the NGO from up before the World War II until now. So let me start with the first part. It is the first foreign NGO. The NGO actually is started before the World War II. Let as we can see on the slide, they in 1839 they were the very first NGO, that is anti-slavery society, that fighting for the slavery cases on that day. So then in 1850, the existence of the Red Cross Society that exists during the Franco and Italian War, Franco-Italian War. So we move to the next evolution of the NGO, the growth of NGO. It evolved more after the existence of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. During that time, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is the biggest NGO in the world. Like now, they're funding world organization like WHO and so on. And endowment during that time is approximately 28.8 US billion USD. There is a big amount of money for that on that time. They can make many charity work or helping other people with that kind of that amount of funding. So we move to the next point is the government funding is one of the factor of the growth of NGO. For example, like Care International receive over 70% of its fund from government contribution. That means only 30% is the funding that they get on their own, and other 70 is being funded by the government. The next example is the Oxfam. Oxfam income, one of 1/3 of its income came from the British government. The quarter of their income, 1/4. Sorry, not 1/3. 1/4 is come from the British government. The quarter of their income. So the third example is the World Vision. They get almost USD 55 million from US government. And the next part is that show the growth of NGO is the top-down theory. In the top-down theory, the scholar use the concept of political opportunity structure that dividing into two things. There is the opportunity of resource mobilization and political access. In this concept of political opportunity structure is they explaining on the understanding on the emergence of social movement and citizen organization. They also telling on the capability of this type of group to form and mobilize the resources, legal regulations, and access to influential political actor and the institution. The institution can be government or private organization. Okay, let's move to the next point is the cooperation with world organization. The NGO also make cooperation with the world organization such as like we can say like United Nations. They also make a cooperation with United Nations. Like under United Nations, there were many agencies like UNHCR, UNICEF, and so on. And the NGO cooperate with these agencies, especially on UNHCR, where they are operating on the refugee, the right of refugee, how they to protect the refugee and so on. Now we move to the next point. There is cooperation with intergovernmental organization. We can see the cooperation between the NGO with the European Union. They and like the other intergovernmental organization also can cooperate with the NGO, like such as like ASEAN. ASEAN is also an intergovernmental. Also, we can say as a regional cooperation. So the example that I can explain is the cooperation with European Union. They are co-financing program in 1970, and the budget is almost 2.5 million euro. There was a big budget for their joint venture program. Like the NGO and the European organization cooperate their financing also and to make a program. But the budget has been rose up to over 1 billion euro between the 1990s and 1995. We can see how this intergovernmental organization helping the growth of the non-governmental organization. I'm sorry for my. Okay, next we move to the last point on the growth of NGO. There is the cooperation with private organization. As we know, the corporate organization have big amount of money or budget for the charity work, or we can say this as CSR program, res- C, CSR, corporate service responsibility. That is, they need to serve to the society. Then by using their money. So the private organization mostly funded the NGO mostly on the international development. And in international development, we can say like making school and so on. And we can say like the private organization making hospital in the outside in the foreign countries such as like Sudan, they build up a hospital for them as their CSR program. In 1994, the private organization have grant international project to the NGO almost 996 million US dollar during that time. And in 1998, 4 years later, they grant the international project to the NGO on 1.6 billion US dollar during that time. It was a big amount of money and big amount of budget for they are making a program or corporate service responsibility and so on. So the example of the private organization that take part by cooperating with the NGOs like Hewlett Foundation, Ford Foundation, and Gator Foundation. This is the big name of in the world industry. So my last part is the characteristic of NGO. In this part, I will explain the characteristic of NGO. The first characteristic of NGO is voluntarily. NGO is being formed by a several individual that want to contribute something to the world. They like a normal citizen. They want to make something. What they can make the world as a better place. They are the type of man or woman that would like to make something in their life to contribute to the world. And in term of organization, the NGO tend to be small, so they can easily operating and be more flexible on decision making. So they don't need to get through some level of bureaucracy. So they will know they will not take time to make a decision. Like they just in a small group and discussing something on what they want to do, and they can decide either they want to do it or not at the right time. If if they need to get through some bureaucracy, it will make the progress being so lame, so late. So that's why they tend to be more small organization, but give big impact to the world, to the society. So the next is the financial and accountability. Mostly the NGO is raise their funding by charity event or donation. Like I think UNICEF, UNICEF uh, have sent their staff to collect donation at the shopping mall all over Malaysia. And I'm not sure about other country, but we can see the UNICEF staff raise their funding in the mall by asking donation from the visitor at the mall. And some of the NGO raise their funding by membership, such as Amnesty International. They they just their member for being a member to the Amnesty. So from the money they get by their membership, they can fund in their organization. And lastly, the characteristic of NGO is independent. As we know, as an NGO, we cannot be influenced by any government in the world. But in terms of funding, the government can fund the NGO but cannot influence them to follow how the government would like the program is going on. And the NGO tend to design their own program, so it's important to them. It's important to them to not influenced by the government. So lastly, government only can fund it, the NGO by the government grant of contract. Yeah, the government grant or contract, and they cannot influence by how they would like to do the work or how they would like to run their program.
Okay, hi. So next, I'll be presenting about NGOs' contribution and also challenges when it comes to handling emergency situations. So first, I will talk briefly about the contribution of NGOs in global issues. The first one is when it comes to NGOs, their role is they are seen as a helping hand to state governments. The easiest example that I can give today is the current COVID-19 pandemic. We saw how since if it's in Malaysia, it is something relatively very new. We don't have much knowledge about it. We don't have much experience about it. So when it comes to this kind of issue, so our government is still new about it. So in this issue, NGOs will act something like as a helping hand to the state government to help them handle this kind of new emergency situation. Because you know this, if you see this current pandemic, it is quite new. It's very huge for the government, for our current government to be handling. It is too overwhelming for them. So this is when NGOs will come together and help state governments to handle this kind of issues. I think one NGOs that I saw, if in Malaysia, was Imaret, where they collected donations from people. They until quite a lot. I think about almost like 1 million. Is it? I can't remember, but it was a lot. So all the donations that they had, it will be flowed to making PPE suits. So that is how they help the government, the health ministry. And next is the most noticeable one, contribution of NGOs is by their contribution in humanitarian assistance. Um, if humanitarian assistance as in like when it comes to like tsunamis, war, the spread of diseases like the current one, so these NGOs they will come together, uh, not just like giving aid, giving help, but uh, they are also involved in the process of promoting, monitoring, and protecting of human rights. They don't just give helps like physical helps or all those kinds like give food, help in building up back shelters, but they also help in like monitoring human right abuses all around the world. Another one, the role of NGOs is that their their role in how do I say to create public awareness to the people about certain issues and advocacy. Wait. mine. Okay, for instance, just now, NGOs role in creating public awareness and also creating public awareness about issues and advocacy in promoting particular causes like human rights, environmental movements, social justice. Uh, I mean, currently there are a lot of NGOs that is doing this. They are trying to create public awareness about a certain issue. Uh, for example, um, for example, is Human Rights Watch. I think everyone has heard about Human Rights Watch, right? Where they try to expose human right abuses all over the world. They try to expose the real truths. One that is like not really seen on the media. So Human Rights Watch, they will help to um, how to say, help to let the people know about what is currently happening, the human rights abuse that is currently happening all over the world that the people doesn't know about, to create more awareness about it. And another one is Amnesty International. Maybe not many has heard about it. Amnesty International, where they fight for individuals that has been detained or imprisoned with no fair trial. What they do is that, you know how some NGOs, they have various how to say national NGOs all over the world. Well, not in all states, but in a few states. For example, Amnesty International, they have their own HQ, and then in Malaysia they have Amnesty International in Malaysia, where they will go around and how do I say do campaigns to petitions to global letter writing campaigns to let people know that okay, this person is under detained without no fair trial, so we should do something about it. Okay, like I said just now, the most noticeable one of the role, I mean, the contribution of NGOs is when it comes to humanitarian assistance. This is because, especially in complex emergency situation, these NGOs will be the one who will be giving like very fast response to the areas of disasters. For example, they are able to move fast. They are able to give out sometimes more help in essential service to those that are affected by it. And in a conference by WHO, a medical doctor from Aceh, Indonesia, they mentioned how there is a tendency for governments to rely a lot on NGOs because some NGOs, they have more knowledge in handling this situation. They have more capital. They have more human, how to say, people to be helping in these emergencies. They are more not they are more capable of handling situations because they have been this, how to say, this, not their job, yeah, this is kind of like their job, helping people. So when an emergency situation happens, not many states are knows the exact thing to do. So this most of the NGOs, they have been involved in many emergency situations, so they know what to do, the right thing to do. So sometimes it is better, I mean, not better, I mean, sometimes these NGOs, they play a huge help in helping states to dealing with emergency situations. Okay, so next I'll be talking about the contribution of NGOs, particularly Oxfam and CARE during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Okay, briefly about the Indian Ocean tsunami. Um, the Indian Ocean tsunami, or the Asian tsunami, in December 2004 is one of the largest emergency response by NGOs to deliver aid and help to those affected countries. when we're talking about this Indian Ocean tsunami, the most um, the most country that is most affected by this is definitely in Aceh, Indonesia, with estimated of 200 deaths alone there. But there are also other countries that is also affected by it, like Sri Lanka, India, Myanmar, and Thailand, Maldives, and Somalia. So, okay, so then Oxfam is an NGO. Oxfam is one of the NGOs that reach out to give out humanitarian assistance to the people in Aceh. They give support by being involved in the public health, building back the livelihood of the people, giving shelters, providing clean water to the communities affected. Their contribution, their focus and contribution was into this Indian Ocean tsunami was a lot. They even had to like pause their existing development programs so that they could focus more on this Indian Ocean tsunami. In the first few days of the tsunami, Oxfam responded with giving rapid assessment to the destruction and gave immediate response by helping to provide clean water to the community of Banda Aceh, Indonesia. Because like during the Indian Ocean tsunami, everything like almost everything was swept away like by the apa ni, by the waves. So they did not have clean water. When it comes to NGO giving humanitarian assistance, they would focus first in giving the most basic basic essential to those that are affected. So the first thing that Oxfam did was by giving supplying clean water to the people affected, to the victims of the tsunami. They supplied water trucks. They even made constructed wells, telaga is it? Yeah, telaga, constructed wells. They even built new water system in a very large scale to the victims in the Banda Aceh area. Second is they tried to like rebuild the livelihood of the people by like giving like giving jobs, not permanent jobs, like jobs just for a while to rebuild back the life of the people that are affected by it. This jobs, they are called wait, if I'm not mistaken, it's called cash programs, where they give the victims that are still able to work, they give like short-term jobs to the people, to the victims, like jobs like removal of the victim bodies, removing debris, or as water pump keepers, and in clearing drainage channels. So this way they are able to like, let's say, kind of like help by giving them money after they have lost their jobs by the tsunamis, and so that they can slowly gain back their livelihood and slowly improve back their economy. They also, Oxfam also distributed non-food items such as tents, blankets, and other items that are needed to construct temporary shelters before they help in building back permanent houses. They also did help in building permanent houses. Okay, yeah. The third one is temporary housing, where Oxfam they were involved in building and constructing temporary housing in Sri Lanka and also Banda Aceh, where the housing design was also created with the help of the local communities there, in so that it is the housing there, it caters the need of the people and also their cultural needs. Another one is they also rebuild schools. They also rebuild schools, and even they give training to teachers, and also they give trauma counseling. So they did not just look for solutions in the, how to say, short one, the basics ones. They also focus on giving assistance in the long run, like giving training to teachers and also giving counseling to those victims that are traumatized by the tsunami. Okay, the fourth one is by providing vouchers that could be exchanged for basic items. This one, it is given by not by Oxfam, but by care organization. They how do I say, like before this, when it comes to giving immediate humanitarian assistance, they would give the most basic, like food, shelter, uh clean water, like what Oxfam did. But what CARE did is that they, in order for them to like slowly rebuild back the economy of the peoples that are affected, what CARE did was a little different from what the other NGOs did, where they provided vouchers that could be exchanged for basic food items. This is, this uh, the this step by taken by CARE, they would not just like help the local business shop to operate back after the tsunami hit them, but they also give a chance to the victims there to also decide on their own needs in recovery. So they don't need to rely everything on what the NGOs give them. They also can buy from the vouchers that is given by care organization to them. So from this step, they did not just help the people, I mean the local communities that was affected, but they also helped the economy. They also helped the people to like slowly rebuild back their business, their local business shop. It is this approach, this step is actually something very new, but it's already recognized by other NGOs as well. Okay, next is by giving support to women, because similar to just now, the cash programs was also done in other places that were affected by it, like in India and Sri Lanka, where they also made women to be involved in this cash program so that they can rebuild back their lives. But they made sure, okay, please ignore that precision. I didn't edit that, sorry. Okay, they made sure that women are given equal pay as men, so that they can rebuild back their lives, because some women they become widows because of the tsunami. They lost their husband, they lost their guardians, they lost their parents. So they gave jobs to women to also be involved in this cash program so that they can rebuild back their lives. And the pay that is given to men, the same amount of pay is also given to women as well. Okay, next I'll be going into challenges that is faced by Oxfam during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Okay, first is in the building of permanent housing. Okay, problems faced by Oxfam in trying to build back housing for the people, for the victims of the tsunami. In the process of restoring back the basic necessities that has lost, Oxfam had very little experience in building permanent housing for the victims, despite they have, although they have a lot of funding, they have a lot of money, but there were problems where the local communities did not wanted to accept the housing that were built by Oxfam, as they were like quality issues, and it did not meet the housing that was built. It did not meet the needs, the cultural needs of the local community there. And also there were also problems where there were changes in reconstruction policy, by the BRR, Badan Rehabilitasi dan Rekonstruksi, where they shifted from the building of temporary housing to building a permanent housing. So because they already built, I mean, Oxfam already built a temporary housing for the victims there, they had to like, because the BRR, they demanded for permanent housing, so they had to like, how to say, get rid get rid of the temporary housing and rebuild again a more permanent housing for the victims. So there was like issues between the NGOs, between Oxfam and also the government, the state government of Indonesia, where they demanded for permanent housing. And next, it also lead to a competition between NGOs, because when it comes to being involved in emergency situation, a lot of NGOs that are involved in this humanitarian assistance, they want to be involved. I mean, they want to be involved in helping the tsunami. So there were like competition between NGOs itself to partner up with local organization. One thing I think is because, like, when you are involved in a emergency situation, it gives the NGO a good image that, okay, for example, Oxfam ICRC has been involved in the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. So it gives the people outside, it gives the people outside that, okay, they are involved in huge humanitarian assistance. Means that they are very good. So from that positive impression of them, they are able to get more funding from companies, from people, sponsors. So they are always fighting to get. They're always fighting, not fighting lah. They are always competing to get um to be involved in this huge humanitarian assistance. Well, yes, their goal is to help, but at the same time also they need funding as well. So they want to be involved in very this kind of huge emergency situations. But okay, yeah, correct. Okay, next is they also differ in ways of handling situations, because like as we know, for example, Oxfam, ICRC, okay, many NGOs, they have their own HQ, but also macam in other countries they have the own local national organization there. For example, like Oxfam Malaysia or ICRC in Malaysia itself. So Oxfam Indonesia, something like that. So what happened here is that when they come to handle this kind of issues, situations or emergency situations, they might be conflicting. Their ways of dealing, their ways of handling this situation might be contrast, might be different. So they can be macam like not fighting, but how do I say this? There might be yeah, like arguments from the NGOs itself, because people are like arguing which kind of approach for them to be taken to handle that situation. And these problems of approaches, they do not just occurs in between the national, I mean the HQ, and also um, the local national NGOs itself, but it also occurs between NGOs, because definitely they need to work together. NGOs, for example, like ICRC and Oxfam and CARE, they need to work together in handling it. So there can be competition where uh, they want they want the situation to be handled in their way of approach. So there will be competition between them itself, between the NGOs. Okay, that is all for my part. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Okay, today I'm going to share with you about non-governmental organization or NGO influence in states. Okay, first of all, what is NGO? Okay, NGO in this topic, the purpose is to understand the relationship between states and non-governmental organization NGO, especially on how they influence on one another. Okay, so the term of NGO can be including various type of organization. Some might be thinking that it is a private organization or a union. Are NGO as since they are non-governmental, or moreover, some others do considered as terrorist group as NGO as well as they work independently and they do have their own sole purpose of establishment. However, every same kind of NGOs can also be differ in terms of their own dimensions, purpose, administrative structure, and also the source of their resources. Okay, in some review does portray that different kinds of um, how to say different kinds of view depending on their own perspective and functions of the organization. Okay, for example, World Bank defines that World Bank defines that NGOs are private organizations as their purpose is to pursue activities that are to relieve suffering, to promote interests of the poor, protect the environment. Then after that, to provide basic social service or undertake community development. Okay, so but however, there's a researcher defines it differently by pointing out the specific functions of an NGO establishment, which is to alter that there are three others commonly believed features that inside the NGO exclude some organization from presence considered as NGOs. Okay, first is NGOs must be non-political parties or governmental agencies because because they should not be any institutions directly affiliated with any organization of government that related to the government. Okay, that furthermore, uh, NGO should do should not have an intention to attain any political control through their actions. Okay. Then second, they must not make profits because we know that NGOs they all stands alone means they are independent and also they are doing some kind their own establishment. Their core value is like a charity like that. Okay. Then after that, cooperation stands not as NGOs because profitable means you are making money. Making profit means you're like all the companies and outside there means you are the real organization that making money that's not doesn't suitable to label as NGOs and making charity. Okay, then finally, the third stated that altogether unlawful groups should be accepted from the classification of NGOs, and even though they do not fit into government or private establishment, but NGOs should partake only a generous drive. Okay, why unlawful? What means like unlawful groups? Unlawful groups are like those groups that we know as some like terrorist groups, extremist groups, or some might be, as for example, like Al Qaeda or some white supremacy groups. All this, even though they are working independently, they have their own funds, their own resources. Then they have their own agenda, everything. But as we know that they are not those kind of like charity kind of organization. They are like more to like how to say bring danger kind of situations to the people. So it doesn't suit to the name of NGOs. Okay. So besides that, we can see that there are different types of NGO established in the world that can be categorized by different levels of associations and also geographical settings. Okay, and also not to forget the core definition of the founding. Okay, for example, NGO can be categorized as a local or district state provision state, provincial, or international NGOs for those bigger kind of organizations. Then after that, it is also well depending on their extent of the missions of their intention, their mission intention. Then as we can see, local NGO including as a part of this organization is because it has a community founded agendas and also to emphasize on minor areas only. This is also including the geographical settings. Okay. Then besides that, for example, in the late 1990s, there are many international NGO begins to emerge. Okay, and some of the NGOs cover further than more than 100 nations nationwide, which is very big, which is we call it as international level of NGOs. It is depending on the level of the organization agendas, the events of the NGO, and also their connections with the government officials, their government actors, and can differ them from the different kind of level. Okay, NGO also have a tendency to work with the governments of multi-states. Means that for example, an NGO which is established and also based in Malaysia doesn't mean they only can collaborate with Malaysia's government. They can collaborate with Singapore, Indonesia. Okay, that's a very good example for you all to see, which is okay. NGO main goals and motives may include reliefs, providing reliefs, like help. Okay, social and economic development and political roles are defined as scholar. Okay, once there's some scholars says NGOs means goal doesn't mean like you're only doing charity, but you also can do social, economic development, and political roles inside the country, the states as well. Okay, for example, there's during in 2010 in Haiti, there's a earthquake, a very how to say a very historical and also sad events. Earthquake happened in Haiti in 2010. Okay, after the earthquake happened, NGO was amongst the first frontliners and organization that who emerged to provide help to those affected Haiti people. Okay, amongst the support they gave was tons of food, shelter, and clothing for desperate people who had lost everything in the earthquake. Okay, the functions of Haiti's government were limited because compared to the work performance by the NGO who were been there, other cases can be said like for because the Haiti government, as we know, not all government in the world is rich, or not all government in the world can provide many kinds of helps at the same time because of they're limited by some is their geographical settings. Okay, maybe the place happen is in a bit mountain area or some bit far away, big transport problem, administrative problems, bureaucracy. Okay, but the first person that arrives can help Haiti government to provide the first relief batch of relief to the people on the spot is those NGOs that arrive on the first day of the after the earthquake aftermath. Okay, so as for some other cases, as we can see in the disaster area, events happen in some Asia region, like when the tsunami hit Indonesia during Aceh. Okay, during the time, it's not only Indonesia, Aceh is affected, but it's also affected by some parts of Malaysia, some parts of India, Thailand, and also Sri Lanka. Because there's reported cases of people who are lost their homes, lost their shelters, jobs. So these NGOs are the one emerged to help them at first. Okay, they also NGOs other than that to provide food, shelter, they also provided paramedic. Okay, for those victims on the spot because as we know, there's NGOs we call it Red Crescent. Okay, those Red Crescent people, even though they are like how to say they are paramedics, they are like people look them up as a government officials, but they are not because they are working willingly, voluntarily. Okay, okay, so the participation of NGOs in the affected zones was appraised by as one of those effective ways and also for to send humanitarian aid. Okay, so besides that, there are NGOs. There are NGOs that how to say there are few governmental organizations that are also running influence on the state's regime, also on the political actors worldwide. Means how say they can influence the behavior of the states. Okay, so this NGO is categorized as sponsorship of politicalization groups as defined their key agendas are to change based on the policy of the current administrations. So many human rights promotion groups face extensive resistance from many states. This idea was for human rights were not clearly articulated at the time, mainly during the human rights that was promoting equal rights such as lesbian, LGBT groups, LGBT community, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. But however, there are numerous states have come to work closely with these human rights groups and respect their hard work in promoting justice in human rights, particularly we can see in like USA, United States of America, okay, and Taiwan. So all these human rights activists, NGOs have worked in few major range of human rights events such as not only those community, LGBT community, but also work closely with the government for educations, gender standards, intensive attention compliance with international ideals, and also implementation of human right liberties. Okay, so as you can see in this slide, non-governmental organizations stimulate state behaviors. So must thinking, oh, NGO can influence on states, government, regime. How? Okay, so this I'm going to tell you how. Okay, it appears that apparently NGO remains to a certain degree controlled by states. In the meantime, all established NGO are subjected to the rule of law. Yes, of course, when you register yourself to the government, you announce yourself as an NGO. Of course, no one is above the law. Okay, even the prime minister, even the premier of the state himself is also bound to the rule of law. Okay, so therefore, it is certain that NGOs does not enjoy any lawful sovereignty, self-governing as the control of the government. No. Nevertheless, most of the NGOs still play a vital role, and they do have some influence states' behavior in many ways, especially how they influence on the state's policy. Okay, the stimulus of the NGO ideas on states' behaviors can be detected in various different parts, and if deprived of the actions of an NGO in the states and or international arena, the state's behavior most probably would not ever be reformed subsequently in the matters that were discussed by sensitive to the interests of the regime. Okay, if there's without powerfully stabilized standards of human rights, significant revolution in human rights situation, for example, like in Chile, that will not possible to transpire. Okay, what happened in Chile? You must be thinking, okay, when I say about Chile, what happened in Chile? Okay, for your information, back in 1970s, Chile have a movement especially for women's rights. Okay, is this an issue in which human rights ideas is inspired as a robust strength for the for the woman in Chile to pursue changing state policy in the administration? Okay, what happened? Because during that time, in the state in that states, they view women doesn't have any special rights, like especially for their protecting themselves or rights to vote, for getting a higher educations or getting involved as a government servants, no, or high officials, no. That's why that time they have a movement this to force the government, to force the regimes to change their state policy to give a better lifestyle or better standards of living, gender standards for women as same as a man. Okay, there's another case can be portrayed which is in Hong Kong protest movement in recent event during 2019, which is last year. Okay, three organizations have made a joint call for stronger synchronization to confront news fabrication on Hong Kong view of what they define as global crusade to disorder public narratives concerning to the autonomous city pro-democracy event movement. Because this event begins when the protest erupted in somewhere mid 2019 across Hong Kong over an extradition bill after the announcement of by the Special Administrative Government Chief Executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam. Okay, when she announced this bill, which is means like if you do any wrong in Hong Kong, even though you are the self-government states, you have your own sovereign in like China, a state which have their own self-sovereign, even though they are part of China. But when you have this law, means no matter what kind of law, if you are in Hong Kong, but you break a law which is illegal in China, but it's not illegal in Hong Kong, but you can still subjected to the law under China, means you can be extradited to China to they can punish you, which is not fair and not right because you are in other states. So means like for example, if I'm in Malaysia, I following Malaysian law. So why does when I say I do something wrong in Malaysia that doesn't affect Malaysian law, that doesn't break any Malaysian law, but these things I do is breaking Singapore law. So why must I be like extradited to Singapore and being accused there? So it's not fair. Okay, so the as this case has worsened into the time from time violent demonstration of disagreement counter to the police department behavior. Then the protest then shift to the amid calls for Hong Kong democracy to total independence from China rules and their total anger over Beijing regime's intrusion over Hong Kong affairs. Okay, that's another case. The example, as we can see back in our homeland, which is Malaysia. Okay, the coalition for clean and fair elections. This sounds a very familiar name for you, which is called BERSE. Okay, BERSE is an also example of model of NGO influence towards states behavior. Okay, why? Because we know BERSE just demonstrations, asking for clean elections, asking for clean government, how they affects. Okay, BERSE is a coalition of few locals and national NGO in which they all seek to reform the existing election system in Malaysia so that in the future elections it is to ensure free, clean and fair elections in electing a clean regime. The awareness of BERSE was begun by 5 opposition parties, which is the first one, Democratic Action Party (DAP), Parti Islam Malaysia (PAS), Parti Keadilan Rakyat (PKR), Parti Sosialis Malaysia (PSM), and Sarawak National Party (SNAP). Okay, back in 2005, which is well along compromise other NGOs in this as well. Up until 2006, there is already 25 NGOs and 5 political parties that endorse the movement and ideology of BERSE as a coalition to pressure the previous government Barisan Nasional. Okay, in BERSE rally, they use yellow shirts and also and ribbons as a mark of protest, as well as yellow or red is the color of people using uprising to against the government in worldwide, such as Red Shirt movement in Thailand, then the Yellow Umbrella Press Freedom movement in Hong Kong back in 2013 or 14, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, during BERSE rally in 2007, a memorandum signed by all coalition of NGOs and political parties that was containing the 4 demands was submitted to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong YDPA as Malaysia head of state. Okay, the memorandum was able to force the current government during that time to set up a parliamentary select committee in 2011 in order to respond to the electoral issue and also the report that was received and passed by the Dewan Rakyat about the electoral issues. Okay, however, the PSC released a report with 22 recommendations, okay, to improve the electoral system, and the report was received and passed to the Dewan Rakyat according to the voice of the majority without debate. But the opposition minority report was proposed to be included too in the PSC's proposal, but was rejected by the Speaker of Dewan Rakyat during the time. As a conclusion, how to say, even though NGOs, that's why as we can see that some in Malaysia, the electoral system is now like can see like it's more clean and people are telling, some even now doing live sharing doing how to count, and some are providing voting education, voters educations to the public. This is why they want to show a transparency. This is one of the pathway as agreed on after being pressured by the Bersih Valley. And also, as we can see currently, after during the Pilihan Raya Umum 14, Pilihan Raya Umum, the PRU 14, we can see there's happened a change of government after people has voted to against to bring down the Barisan Nasional regime and to put the Pakatan Harapan government into the to become the government of Malaysian people. But however, in currently the situation now is uh, after some political turmoils happen in the national level and also among the political party themselves, and uh, how to say the Perikatan Nasional now, which is consist of the Barisan Nasional PAS and also some Bersatu member now already forming up another kind of another government in Malaysia. Okay, but I would say that's why as we can heard, there's few NGOs that doesn't agree to them. But however, the government doesn't just like neglect them like that. But the government put up an explanation, especially by our Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin during his first special announcement or special live broadcast with the Malaysian people. Uh, he did say that yes, I do agree with you. I'm not a government that's selected by you. I'm not a government voted by you. But we're trying our best to help the Malaysian people during especially the pandemic situation of COVID-19. So that's why this is a good place to see that how the government and also the NGOs, there's respect among themselves, and also like, okay, I respect your views and I also respect your demands, everything, but the government trying to negotiate with them on how to like together government and also NGOs comes together to help the people in need. That's why during this pandemic situations, the government are allowing the NGOs to provide funds and provide some food security or provide medicines for these people who are in need, especially those people who are affected like lost their jobs or they something bad happened to the family during the pandemic situations. Okay, as a conclusion to this chapter, although their importance in the international world has been growing, but it is depending on the type of the regime of the states and the maturity of the NGOs can affect the relationship between the states and the NGO. Therefore, NGO influence on government's foreign policy behaviors towards other states can be understood through the actions taken by the NGOs and their ideas of promoting their belief through medias and influence of the people to pressure and affect the government legislations and the rule of law. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you.